Melissa. Fantastic. Thank you for that warm intro, and yeah, thanks for the opportunity to present today. So today I'll just provide a quick overview of our program and focus on industrial decarbonisation as part of our electrification program. Before that, though, if we just recap Essential Energy's network footprint. So we cover 95% landmass New South Wales, basically all areas outside of Sydney, Newcastle and Wollongong. Currently today, we have connected about 2.2 gigawatts rooftop solar PV. So this is both the mums and dads with solar panels on rooftops and small businesses, as well as another 1.5 gigawatts large-scale renewables. So we're as a result of that, we're operating about a third of our network at zero carbon in the middle of the day. So the purpose of electrification programs is to support our customers on a least cost path to decarbonise. And we're aiming to do that through increasing network utilisation. So another objective of our program is to support the efficient use of the network, which will result in downward pressure on network charges, effectively reducing the dollar per kilowatt hour of energy delivered through the network. And I should say our program is very much focused on the decarbonisation of non-transport fossil fuels. So they're things such as LPG, natural gas, coal and diesel, which definitely sings to the topic today on industrial decarbonisation. We also have an EV strategy I won't talk about today, but that deals with on-road transport decarbonisation. Just in terms of setting the concept, in terms of industrial emissions, but this is a New South Wales focus, noting it Essentials network we service within New South Wales. The Productivity Commissioner for New South Wales actually released a report just late last year on industrial emissions and in terms of reaching our net zero targets within New South Wales. And there was some concern raised that the industrial sector is not moving as quick as it should to meet the targets. It's a great report. I do recommend reading it. But in terms of in terms of total New South Wales emissions, the reason why I'm bringing this up is that if we can really come up with solutions and work together with industry, try and accelerate decarbonisation of industrial process heating, we can really move the dial on emissions. And this would be the same across other states. And I should also reference the ARENA report. Most of you on the call may have read that report back in 2019 for options for industrial process heating, which they called out that about 91% of energy used today for industrial process heating is above 150 degrees. So that's above typically what a heat pump can service, which I know Jared's more qualified to talk about that than I am. But basically this sings to the solutions and the technologies that will be presented today in terms of e-test type units to try and come up with solutions to decarbonise majority of process heating. Just quickly capping to set the context, there's some major changes happening in three critical areas I just want to call out. So in terms of the national electricity market, there's significant changes in terms of the energy mix, which is influencing both the cost of wholesale energy, where we're seeing now even negative pricing during peak solar PV production periods, but also the rapid decline of the carbon intensity of New South Wales, or I should say in the NEM, the National Electricity Market energy during peak solar PV production times. But we are seeing a rapid reduction during those times in terms of the carbon intensity of energy in the market, which I'll talk about later on. We're also seeing a rapid advancement of technology. So we've got two technology providers on the call today, which fairly simplistic technology in terms of how it operates, but I'm very excited in terms of the technology and how it can interface to networks and to the market to really sing in tune to intermittent renewables. So effectively then looking at, if we move around further clockwise, digitisation of the market and networks and the connecting load and generation is really enabling a significant opportunity here to accelerate industrial decarbonisation, which I'll talk about that later in the presentation. So just to talk about carbon emissions, and again, this is the New South Wales focus, linked to our program and in terms of the New South Wales carbon intensity of the New South Wales grid, which this figure presents the forecast carbon intensity, which by about 2030, early 2030s, is forecast to effectively be zero carbon, driven by the rapid change in energy mix in the market. If we look at the carbon intensity during the middle of the day, so during peak solar PV production times, already at a New South Wales or a state-based average, we're already operating in terms of late 2029. But as I mentioned before, for about 1/3 of our network, already today, we're operating where the average New South Wales grid would be in the early 2030s. So that's a key piece I just wanted to call out, is that with the rapid uptake of renewables, which we're looking at supporting even more, depending where you're connecting in the grid, you could already be operating at zero carbon. So taking that previous figure, which is this red curve, is the forecast carbon intensity, and we overlay both LPG and carbon intensity of LPG and natural gas. So this is a kilowatt hour per kilowatt hour consumption. You can already see that during the middle of the day in New South Wales average, it's about on par with LPG. But as I mentioned before, for about a third of our network, grid served energy is much, much less versus gas, both LPG and natural gas. When we compare the electric machines, so we have to consider the efficiencies at which they operate at. So in this instance, the yellow curve, I've looked at an E-test and compared it to a boiler, a gas boiler, which I was probably a bit generous. I gave the gas boiler an 80% efficiency and the E-test unit about 90% efficiency. And this is comparing the input carbon intensity in terms of this is using grid served energy to deliver the same heat energy. And as we can see, again, in the middle of the day, we can operate that machine at much lower at slightly lower carbon intensity compared to LPG. But if we consider where it plugs into the network where we have reverse power flows, if you electrify today, you can already operate at much lower carbon intensity compared to gas and LPG. So that's to talk about carbon intensity. So already there's higher temperature applications today for decarbonising industrial process heat that's operating at lower carbon. If we talk about energy costs now, which I'll talk about electricity costs, and then I'll talk about, wholesale costs, and I'll talk about network costs. So this figure presents the average New South Wales wholesale market. So 365 days averaged, which we're already seeing just over the last year, energy prices during peak solar PV production times around $30 to $40 a megawatt hour. I should mention if you remove, say, the 10, 20 peak days in the year, you can actually get this wholesale price down a lot lower. And some business cases we're working on already in New South Wales, we're effectively seeing wholesale costs are averaging out around zero. And it's different in each state, and I think Tom will talk about that later in terms of those opportunities. But just as a comparison, I've overlaid the retail cost of gas on a megawatt hour basis. For instance, the $25 a gigajoule, which is typical for LBG customers in our network footprint. Already you can see that is higher costs on an energy basis versus wholesale cost electricity, and even so for lower cost retail for gas. So all I want to call out on this slide is with the rapid changes in the wholesale market, energy cost is getting cheaper, driven by the uptake of renewables, and this is presenting an opportunity to reduce energy cost. So now moving on to the network costs component, which we're actually working on a trial of some industrial customers around innovating connection access and tariff design. I just want to talk to the concept of increasing network utilisation and how that reduces network costs. So this figure presents a low duration curve, which a way to think about how this is generated is basically we can take 30-minute snapshots over a whole year in terms of the total network demand. We sort it from largest to smallest. So this presents our total network, which our network peaks at about 2.5 gigawatts. Peak demand is a very strong correlation between peak demand and the cost to serve. And the reason behind that is peak demand, obviously, it's driving the physical size of those assets, so the size of the transformers and the conductors. So if we can manage peak demand or deploy demand management techniques when we connect new load, we can actually avoid what we call network augmentation. So we don't have to make the networks physically larger, and then we can avoid that additional cost. But in addition, how we collect our revenue, we operate under what's called a revenue cap, which is linked to the physical size of our asset base. So if we can physically cap or manage peak demand and not increase our asset base, our revenue remains the same. But if we can add more load and increase energy throughput, we can effectively reduce the unit cost of accessing the network. So theoretically speaking, say we double the energy through the network and not increase the RAB, the regulatory asset base, we can effectively halve the unit cost of the network, which is a great outcome for businesses and also the mums and dads connected to the grid in terms of lower energy costs. So I'll now move on to one of the examples of demand management in terms of managing peak demand on the network. One of these methods is our future network engineers are currently working on a new connection standard called dynamic access to network capacity, or dynamic operating envelopes, which basically it's signaling real-time capacity in the network, which is a significant shift from our static connections for load and generation we have today. And it's enabled through, as I mentioned before, around digitisation, so enhancing visibility in the network, but also the ability to be able to signal to load and generation in the network that can respond. That's enabled through digitisation. So in this example, this is an industrial feeder linked to an industrial precinct, which already there's for instance, there's a low duration curve where we're experiencing about 3.5 megawatts peak demand on the network. But as you can see, outside of that time period, there's a significant amount of asset capacity that can be utilised. So we're currently working in developing a trial to signal that spare capacity on a real-time basis for an e-test unit to be able to soak up that spare capacity. And I should also mention that peak load is near the capacity limitations of the feeder. So without this type of connection arrangement, we would trigger a significant investment in the network, which would basically it wouldn't be feasible to connect that load to the network. So another way we can drive network utilisation, increase network utilisation, is by signalling through our pricing, so our network pricing. To explain about that concept, basically taking a summary of the national electricity market, so traditional market in terms of generation, transmission, distribution, and the end customer is connected. And I've expanded the distribution network into components that make up our network pricing. So we typically split into 3 components. So sub-transmission, so that's 33,000 up to 132,000 volts in our network. The high voltage network, which is 33,000 down to about 11,000 volts. And then there's the low voltage network. So this is typically in the street, operating the 415 volts 3-phase. So in terms of cost to serve, there's asset classes linked to these voltages, which then determines pricing. So depending on the supply path, a customer using the network determines the cost to serve to deliver energy to that customer. So just on the last slide, if I just mention about the trial we're currently setting up with some industrial facilities to support the connection of highly flexible loads, we're seeing areas of our network, as I mentioned, with reverse power flows. So we're currently working with our network pricing team and with the providers of this technology as well, that's highly flexible, to establish a trial where we could signal basically in a sun soaker period. That's when we have significant solar PV in the network, together with a dynamic operating envelope. If we're only using the local area of the network, then we could signal a very low price that's linked to the local use of the network. So effectively a very low rate, which indicatively what we're looking at this stage is effectively an off-peak rate. So it could be much less than $50 a megawatt hour, which if you stacked it together with the wholesale pricing, we can already see that electricity is lower cost than gas. But I should mention this is a trial tariff that we're currently working on, and we can share updates of that as that trial progresses. And then just lastly, I just wanted to mention around electrification program. So we are supporting co-funding feasibility studies of representative customers per sector, and this involves trials as well. So just wanted to do a quick call out that if you're interested in your industrial facility across the Central Energy Network footprint and you'd like to participate in our electrification program and support lower cost methods of decarbonising, please feel free to reach out.